Mr. Roy Belquist. Good evening.
Hey, good morning or good evening, Warren. How are you?
No, it all just sort of blends together, doesn't
It
it?
really does. The days are just kind of combining.
Oh boy. Well, welcome everybody out there in internet land to episode number
Number 8, The Guardian of Piri.
what? What's so funny?
Nice episode, kind of peaceful.
Awesome. Do you have a synopsis this week, Roy?
I do. A mysterious power from an alien planet takes control of the moon, turning its inhabitants to a paradise of eternal peace, but living death. Only one man has the will to resist, Commander Koenig. And that is the ITC summary for this episode.
Very nice. Well, we're excited to jump in with our special guest. We'll roll that wonderful intro and dive right in.
Sounds good.
Wonderful intro.
Yeah, compliments of Catherine Boujol. Wonderful work. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Chris, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here with you discussing one of my favorite episodes. And we were talking over the phone just before the show, and you mentioned that it was one of your favorite episodes as well, Roy, correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, this one goes back to when I first watched Space 1999 back in 1975. This one was one of my go-to episodes, along with War Games, which we'll be talking about later on and in the weeks to come. But yeah, definitely this episode and War Games were probably like my top two back in 1975. How about you, Warren? What are your
what are we talking about?
favorite episode?
Oh, Guardian of Piri. Yes, of course. It's sort of right in the middle of the road for me as far as year one goes. So I have to
Really?
say, yeah, it's not a go-to episode, but it's not one that I shy away from. If it's next up on the disc set. A couple things stuck with me again from a very young age, and again, it harkens back more to the design, the sound design, the way that track was slowed down undersea and used so effectively. The background behind us, just amazing landscape, alien landscape again, and of course Piri in general. Once you get there and you see all those floating balls, it's like, wow, that's a
Nothing quite like floating balls, right?
A thing of dreams. Yeah.
So I noticed, Roy, that you said Piri. It's kind of a French way of saying it. Is that standard for you?
No, just the way I've always said it.
Is that how you saw it as a child? Like
it is actually. I always say.
Well, of course, that's how you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm still trying to learn how to say Harkonnen, not Harkonnen. So yes, I get it. It's what we saw or heard when we first learned of something.
And as Warren will probably attest to, I tend to do, and my another close friend Ross, who's a co-host on my show, when it comes to words and the pronunciation of words, I usually just pretty much destroy them. So I come full I'm out about that. So, full disclosure.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
Where's
Hey,
that mug from?
we have some guests that are joining us, and we are broadcasting live tonight. So this,
Oh,
we
are
don't
we
do this
live?
all the time. Yes, we are.
30th anniversary mug.
That's okay.
It's
From
got year 2 on the back and year 1 on the front.
the
Very
30th
cool.
anniversary. Was that in conjunction with a convention?
No, I think it was a special edition from Anderson. The same wonderful people, if I could do a little shout out, who did my Christmas sweater.
Yes, I was going to say.
Nice.
It's an amazing one. We love it.
Very cool.
So, if I could start a little bit talking about my connection with Guardian of Piri a little bit, or I don't know how this show is run. I don't want to take over.
No, you're fine. But before you do that, Chris, I'm just going to say welcome to the viewers that are out there that are saying hello to us. So I want to give a shout out to Claudia Combs. She's joining us. Hello, Claudia. And Claudia, I believe, Claudia, I always forget what state you're in. So please just let everybody know. May is out there. May is joining us from Canada. Welcome, May. Nancy's also joining us from Canada. Welcome, Nancy. And Randy Lee is joining us from Wisconsin. So just wanted to get that out first, just to say hi to them.
Awesome. Hello to everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Yes, we appreciate it. And please feel free to comment throughout the broadcast, because we are broadcasting live.
We are live.
But yeah, Chris, let us know how, your connections with this episode. We know that this is definitely a favorite. Warren was actually posting a photo. I was actually going to try to get through my LA photos from the 1999 convention, and I did not have the opportunity to do that. So I do apologize for that, because I do have a lot of them as well. But definitely tell us about your, background with regard, especially specifically with this episode.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Chris Paulsen. I've been watching the show since September of '75, been to the original conventions, helped co-produce the Breakaway convention, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Most of you know me. I don't remember seeing Guardian of Piri first run for some reason. There's a little haziness when it first started. I mean, I was 11, and it was like, I was kind of like the guy in the RCA speaker ad that was like sitting in a chair and had the wind going over him like that. It was kind of like that. I was like, whoa. So, but when I do vividly remember seeing it was as a second run, I guess. It was still I think it was still in '76. The year 2 hadn't premiered yet, but it was, my sister took me to the Grand Canyon, and we were in a hotel there, and that episode came on. I was like, oh, I've seen this one again, but I liked it. And I just remember sitting there being, again, blown away by the visuals. And I think it really is a case of style over substance. Roy, you touched on that as well. I know that when they were filming it, the story goes that the cast, or at least they were writing, wasn't quite sure if it was going to be a hit. They thought it was kind of a stinker. And then they did some rushes, or they screened it for some of the crew, and the crew really liked it. And so they thought, oh, it turned out better than we thought. And it really does. I mean, on screen, it is iconic. It is the episode that people refer to when they think the production designers, aka Keith Wilson, were flying high on acid, on LSD. I mean, the production design is unsurpassed. And there's a reason why Jeffrey Morris's Eagle Obsession has recreated the Piri set, because of all those in these 48 episodes. I think it is the alien set that most instantly comes to mind when you think of something fantastic.
Yeah, I would totally agree. It is so outworldly, and it is so exotic, and it is it stands out. And everybody that knows Space 1999 and has watched the show and would probably have to say that this one is, when it comes to planet sets and then also alien landscapes, it is really that, the way you summed it up, alien, an alien type of atmosphere. And it's just very exotic. And yeah, it's definitely, from an artistic standpoint, really captures the mind. And you could contribute it to a bad acid day too, I guess, right?
Well, they really did work together as a team in year 1 to come up with ways to present exotic locations. I mean, Space Brain is basically built on what can we do with a foam machine, because we can do this. building an episode around a concept. Same thing with, I think, with Keith's Piri set. Like, they had the idea of balls, of making things and just going with it. For the 99 convention, we had a tree constructed. I don't think it's quite as accurate as Jeffrey Morris's current one, because I've seen little still shots of that, and it looks incredible. But that was my late partner Michael doing his best to kind of figure out how to do it. Close enough, going down to the LA Fabric Mart and getting styrofoam balls and spray painting stuff and things. It was fun.
Hey, I have to say, I was at that convention. In fact, that was the first Space 1999 convention that I had attended, Chris. And just walking into that environment and seeing everything was totally amazing. So yes. Randy's commenting saying Guardian of Piri, designed to blend in ingredients. Puree. Well, like I said, when it comes to pronunciations, I'm gonna puree it into a smooth.
You must be consistent. You must conform. You must be smooth and uniform.
Exactly. Hey, I want to say hi to some of the other folks that are joining us. Christopher Michael Dalton is out there. Hey, Chris, good to see you out there. Missy's also joining us. Missy, welcome.
Punky Kitty.
Shari's joining us from downstairs. Hi, hun. She is down and watching. I do not know who this is. Warren or Chris, can you please pronounce that person's first and last name and go for it?
This is, I know almost everybody on social media. This is a first for me. I've never seen that before.
Okay.
Sawa Don Falastin? I don't know. Massive heroin metaphor. Interesting. I think it is more of a stealing of the siren story from Greek mythology. The sailors listening to the songs and being seduced by the maidens on the island who then killed them. But
from the Odyssey, book number 9, I believe. Yep.
Yeah. But I have to say that I have to fault Newsweek, because they did a review of this show, which I had framed and on my wall before I even saw this episode. And in that review, I don't know if you remember it, but there's 2 pictures. One is the kind of full shot of Moonbase Alpha being engulfed in foam. And the other is Martin and Catherine Schell walking on the set of Piri. And underneath that, it says, "The sexy robot rulers of the planet Piri." I mean, like,
wow.
WTF. So when I saw the show, the big reveal at the end is that she's a robot. Was like, I knew that already.
Yeah, disclaimers. They shouldn't have done that.
It's interesting, Chris, that you mentioned early on, and I stumbled upon this going through Martin Landau's documents over the last year, but there was a specific letter from Jerry Anderson to Martin and Barbara saying that they had finalized the cut of Piri, and because I guess they'd seen an early cut, and that's where there was some concern that it wasn't working, it wasn't gelling. But there was an actual letter sent from Jerry to Martin and Barbara saying that based upon the final cut, a number of people had seen it, and it was quite favorable.
Yeah.
The other thing that I can think of offhand, just talking about all this from back in the day, is that Johnny Burns critique, between year 1 and year 2, Johnny did a critique of all the year 1 episodes. And he wasn't overly kind to Piri. He thought I'm just paraphrasing here, but I think he said it was they went a little too far or over the top with the design.
In what aspect?
Specifically, the design. He said he felt it didn't work. Strangely enough.
Interesting.
Okay. Well, that's in hindsight. His hindsight is a little less hindsighty than ours hindsight, because I think the 50 years since has proven that it is the iconic set.
Absolutely.
And if anything was wrong with that episode, it was just the turning points weren't as dramatic as they needed to be. You know, I think the whole, that's it, there are no Pirians, was like the biggest duh moment. You know, we hadn't seen anybody anywhere, you know, Warren, what are your middle of the road comments about this episode?
Well, and I'm trying to balance the scales here a little bit. And listen, Johnny's critique, just so everybody knows, I mean, he was given a very, very tough job, after year one, right? Because it was essentially Jerry that said to him, "Look, we need an in-depth, hypercritical review of everything that went wrong." Because I mean, the fate of the series was sort of hung in the balance, if you will, because they needed to pinpoint the weaknesses, the limitations of the series, and Johnny was just doing his job, and I mean, it might have been an offhand comment that he. Uh, didn't feel the design work on Piri worked, but I mean, like you said, it's a fan favorite, definitely. So I mean, as far as myself, and to answer that,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of good elements and aspects, like I mentioned earlier in the episode tonight, and
What doesn't work for you, though?
I can say that um, I really like Catherine's performance. I can say that I didn't.
Come on, it's okay. We're all family here.
I
Speak
know,
your
I
mind.
know.
We're all
Let it out, Warren. Let it out.
Warren.
Don't hold back. Don't hold back.
I know. I know.
We don't want it to be boring, because if we all look into the light and say it's all wonderful,
Was
like
it
kind
too?
of like what the episode is about, then you know what? It's not going to work, because then we're all going to die. So let's,
Was it too derivative for you? It reminded me of the Paradise Syndrome with Spock getting emotions, and having, that kind of situation.
You know what, Chris? Before you answer that, I wasn't going to go towards Star Trek, but Warren, hold your thought there. It actually reminds me more of the Return of the Archons, Chris, because with Landru basically felt that this is how you should be.
Yeah.
And it was based on a computer, but we can come back to that because we're talking about that. But I can see why you chose this, this side of Paradise with the spores, and I could see that. But I kind of went with the Return of the Archons, but we can hold that for another time. Go ahead, Warren.
I don't have much. It was just, I guess, basically the whole idea that I think the Elfins succumbed a little too easily, and it just sort of went through osmosis, where it's like at first there's one or two people affected, and then it's like after the commercial break it's like Koenig's the only one that's not, and it just I don't know. I just think there was maybe a lot of Roy. We talked about maybe some missing scenes, earlier versions of the script that maybe
sure
filled in a few of these gaps. But
you know what, I want to bridge on what you just said, because I kind of was, when you're watching these episodes, and I think we're all guilty. I don't even want to say guilty, because it's not being guilty, but we all do it from time to time. In your mind, you will kind of go off on the side. It's kind of like when you're reading a book, you're imagining everything that's taking place. So for me, when Koenig is down on the planet, and then he's trying to get back to the Eagle, he got away, he didn't look into the light, so to speak. And then what happens is he's calling Carter, and then the servant of the Guardian, Catherine Shell, appears on his comm lock, and she essentially says, "You don't know the power of the Guardian yet, but you will learn, just as your people are learning." What would have been interesting is if they had done a shot on Alpha now, where maybe like this light came through, or essentially everybody on the base had been taken over. I mean, they kind of leave it to the mysticism, to the mystery of what actually happened. I mean, Helena even says that there was just this light, that because when Koenig is questioning her in the Eagle about, he's trying to find out about the people. But it would have been interesting to see how the Alphans had been affected and had been taken over. It was happening on a very slowly, and it was very subtle, essentially starting with Victor. And what's interesting is watching this, and I kind of went back and I was kind of analyzing, Victor is calling it Piri before they even know what the name of the planet is, even before anything. So it's like, how did he know that? In fact, when they are at the command conference and they're sitting and he's talking about it, he references the planet as being Piri. And Koenig actually kind of, and I don't know if this was something that was in a direction, or if this was something in the writing, in the script. I haven't actually gone back and looked at it. But Martin Landau, kind of, or Koenig, looks around like he's taking it in, because Koenig never refers to the planet by its name when they are in the command conference, when they're on Alpha, before this all happens with them. And then there's even another moment after Victor passes out. He's in the medical center, and then he also references that he feels that Piri is going to be the exact the perfect place for them. So it's like the Guardian is kind of like maybe trying to get a hold of him, and then finally does, because of his mechanical heart. And I just think that is something that they could have worked on a little bit more. But I think there's a little bit of a hint of that again, where Koenig is like almost like surprised that Victor is mentioning it being Piri, but then what happens is then he has the whole heart issue, or he can't breathe, and then he passes out. I'm just curious, did you both pick up on that, or did you have any thoughts about that?
I never realized that they said Piri before anybody else knew what it was, but it would make sense to me, because if the Guardian was influencing them through main computer, then especially after he's hooked up to main computer, then he would have been affected.
Right.
I did really appreciate the chance to see the Alphans letting their hair down. We didn't see that often. I mean, you can count on one hand the time that they were happy, briefly, when they had a child for just a brief moment, last sunset. And it was a great example of that. Even though they were influenced, it was still great to see Helena so relaxed and smiling and doing things we never saw her do,
Right.
Dr. Matthias taking shots in the
yeah.
center, all that stuff was like, really, go on. I know you're influenced, but it's great to see you get out of your shells a little bit, because honestly, everything was so dire the first year. They never smiled because it was hard to. Well, that's
very true. Sort of reminiscent of Star Trek again, The Naked Time.
Yes. Good. Yep.
And they basically just get drunk, and but you're right, Chris. It was nice to see them a little more laid back and relaxed, for sure. And I mean, the party scene, it was a change from the previous 7 episodes, for sure, because it was so just by the book with everything along the way. So I really wish that we would have seen more opportunities, more scenes and instances like that, just in general, like the next episode, Force of Life, where they go into the solarium, right, where you see them a little more off duty Elfins,
right,
as well. But no, I think overall, I mean, it holds up. I mean, it's definitely, again, one of the episodes that a lot of people remember, again, because of the design, the look, the sound design, remarkable, like I said, and Catherine Schell. I mean, like I said, also some really nice moments with the secondary background characters, David Kano.
Yep.
Right, which and Roy, we talked about this with all of his ties and links to computer. This episode in particular, very, very interesting backstory that we learned about David Kano.
Yeah, Christopher Michael Dalton. Hello there, nice name. He touched on that as well, and Roy just flashed that on the screen about David Kano. It was proto cyberpunk, pre-cyberpunk, and I think that's where they needed to go, was having the secondary characters having some kind of backstory occasionally, and we didn't see that much, and this was one of the few times that Clifton Jones had a chance to shine and had something other than tearing off pieces of paper and reading gobbledygook, so I would have liked to see more of that, and also, if I may, to see that ability explored more. He can, I'm sorry, what? He can connect to the computer? I mean, they're just doing that now and being able to do that. I think space was way ahead of its time in that respect.
Absolutely. And it really reinforces his connection, his passion for the computer, but also the dangers involved with it. It's not something that he really wanted to do. And I think that it's probably, I mean, part of the reason that they never explored it was maybe the situation never reached that grave a situation where they were actually having issues with computer. The only thing that really comes close that immediately I can think of is when Gwent was taken over the computer. But essentially, that wasn't going to work because they knew Gwent was the issue with that, and computer was going to say whatever Gwent wanted. But he was willing to actually take that leap because, as he said, the other people that actually I think he said it was 2 other people that had actually done the experiment became mindless vegetables. And Helena was almost like saying that it was his passion and that was really driving him, that made him, be successful with that. But it was a wonderful character moment, wonderful way to develop the character. And it's really a shame that it didn't go on to the next level with that, because it really could have been explored further. And again, kind of, I'm going to be a little protective here. When folks, kind of take their shots at Space 1999 and they say about the characters, there is so much characterization with with the members of.
You have to find it. It's there.
It is there, and it's just it's like real life. I mean, there's folks that are full of personality, and it's just that unless you talk to them, you may never find out, what their hobbies are, their likes, and everything. You know what I mean? And you're like, wow, I never knew this about somebody. Well, granted, this is a television series, so you want it to come out, and unfortunately, there were only 24 episodes with year one where the opportunity to do this could happen. But it's nice when we had these special moments, because they definitely did exist and they definitely were there. Just flashing some more comments up on the screen.
I see Arlene.
Peter Kenneth said great special effects and great set.
Hydroponics.
Yes.
Come on.
Yep, exactly. Let's see. Missy is saying the eagle just hanging there was, for me, so impressive. Unmanned, just hanging, that was so magnificent. I want to touch upon that. Now, this story was actually the original draft of this, or the original story, was based on something entitled Nobody's Perfect. And if you want to learn more about this, I'm going to give Bob Wood and David Hirsch a plug for their book. And,
it's very good.
Yes. If you haven't read it, you definitely want to check it out. But there's a lot of information, and the story, the writer of the story is not credited in this episode. It's thought to be David Ware or David Ware. I'm going to, again, with the pronunciations, that he was the writer. Christopher Penfold was credited with the screenplay. And there are differences that take place with this story. And what's interesting is, with the original 2 astronauts, Irving and Davis, who are actually going
cottages.
Yeah, exactly. going to the planet in the very beginning, and we'll say is the hook. What happens is their eagle almost crashes into one of the pinnacles, and time is frozen. As we see in this episode, it is continued to be frozen, and it's such a cool effect. And Missy, I think, brought that up too, about saying how the eagle is hanging there. And it's the one time where I believe it's the second time we get to see an eagle docking with another eagle, because we got to see that in Earthbound when the eagle is docking actually with the Caldorian spaceship. This is the first time we get to see an eagle docking with an eagle, and it's in suspended. Very cool effect. And they only had the one eagle, the 44-inch eagle, at that time, so that was something that they had to kind of have like part of an eagle showing, so it wasn't the complete thing.
I think they built a section of the other one. Yeah.
Yep. And then Carter goes in to check it out. There is kind of a blooper there, and I'm being nitpicky. When he goes into the boarding area, he's going from the passenger module into the connecting area. The door is open, and then what happens is it switches into the command module, and then the doors are starting to open. So if you look quickly for that, you'll kind of see that it's kind of out of sync with that. But it is kind of eerie, and everything is dark. And then he reports back to Paul, and he references that it's like the Marie Celeste, which was an American merchant. A ship that was found intact, and this was back in 1872. But there was no crew on board, so it was kind of like very mysterious. So I thought that was kind of interesting with that. And then the other thing is, Carter leaves it. He can't take it back because literally the eagle is frozen in time, so to speak, and which we don't know at this point. But when Koenig comes back to the planet with Carter to do the investigation, and they go down there, he looks up at one point and he sees the eagle, and it's just like suspended. And my whole point of that is, in Nobody's Perfect, what happens is when time is resolved and starts to move forward, those two pilots that were on the Eagle are actually mentioned as being killed. So it's kind of, they took that in a different direction. So if you have the opportunity, definitely check it out. It's kind of interesting.
I have a quick question though. If time was restored and
Yep.
there we were right back on our original course past the planet, then how come that Eagle doesn't crash on the surface? We don't see that, but I'm assuming with all the chaos that's going on that the Eagle did crash.
It should have. It absolutely should have. I totally agree with you. And we just don't see it. Fortunately, the pilots are actually on the planet when this,
Right.
and everybody's making their way back to the Eagle. But what happened was, in the original story, it was altered a bit. And it doesn't, what essentially happens is, just to give a quick summary, the Alphans are back on the moon, and it's only Koenig and Carter that are on the planet. So it's like everything that took place didn't take place, and then Koenig and Carter are trying to get back to Alpha as the moon is starting to pass away. And
it's Bobby in the shower moment. From
kind of, sort of, yeah. But only it really happened. But it's just that time was restored from the point where the Eagle was frozen, because it's going to crash. Everything from that point on almost didn't kind of happen, but it did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the ending, if I may.
Of course.
I think one of the strengths of the first season was in its Twilight Zone style endings, the kind of ending that made me as a viewer sit there in awe and wonder and ponder what had just happened. And this is one of those endings that is really good and really effective. It's where they were hitting on all thrusters. I can name a half a dozen other episodes off the top of my head that have similar ones. Earthbound being like the #1 best ending, a slow burn of an episode, but the ending is one of the best. And Garnet Piri as well. The irony of everything being restored and then having a planet that they could actually have lived on if they had just stayed was spot on, perfect. And I would say an example of where the show was heading and where they were trying to be, that kind of thought-provoking wow moment, that awe, the awe of the universe kind of, and the faith that they are in and having to go through. Anyway, I never knew what Marie Celeste was when I was a kid. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I had to look it up in an encyclopedia. An encyclopedia, young folks, is a bunch of books that we had before the internet search engines.
Hey, how about the big fight between Koenig and Carter in the
Oh, yeah. It was great. It was great. Yeah. I mean, there's problems with pacing in this episode a little bit. I think that they flew down to the planet one too many times, and that took up a lot of time. But there's a lot of really good moments where it sings. When he's abandoned on Alpha and she comes and joins him, and all of that kind of stuff was really good. And to this day, I mean, I'm assuming we all heard them on audio cassettes when we were kids, and we all probably thought we were the only ones who did them. But to this day, I still think whenever I cut myself or something, I say to myself, leave me with my pain. It reminds me I'm human.
Really?
Moments like that.
That happens to me every time I watch the television monitor.
It's interesting. You brought up about, I want to go back to the thing, the point you brought up, Chris and Warren, about the fight scene in the Eagle. It's, Alan was, and this is one of those episodes where we have angry Alan, because in the earlier episodes, he's very opinionated. He really stands out. His Australian accent is full on. And he really just, it's just, he's very, he's like fuming anytime he gets. He's very impatient, and he's very driven, very passionate. And, he cares about his comrades. He cares about his mates. And he's so frustrated with the situation. And to me, it's almost like the irony that the one that's like against the computer, the one that, doesn't want to follow anything that's, has to do with automation or anything in regards to that, and wants to just have the free will. When it comes time, he kind of falls the hardest, and he's the one that goes up against Koenig the most, because when Koenig gets back to the Eagle, and then he's got that grin on. In fact, I had even asked Nick about that, and because I showed that there's that one, as we know, and the dialogue. As a kid, this is one of the scenes being in the Eagle cockpit. It's like, nice place, huh? Kind of peaceful. And he's like, it's no place for us, Alan. Nice people. And he has that grin on his face. And then, he just takes the controls down. My question is,
nice people. What people? He never left the cockpit. That didn't make any sense to me as a kid.
So what is it? Why do they want to, fly the Eagle like that? That's my question. Is it they're having a fun? It's for the kicks. What is the whole point of that? The other thing is, in the heat of the moment, Koenig, unstraps himself and he goes after Carter. I always say, especially now, why not just pull out your stun gun and just, stun him? And then, that would be the end of it. But then, of course, we wouldn't have had that really cool fight scene.
The exigencies of the script. Somebody said it's too slow. All right, we'll have a fight scene. Perfect. We'll figure it out.
But anyway, it always stood with me, that whole scene. And I'm gonna talk about the Eagle too again a little bit, because this is the first episode that we actually get to see the lab pod Eagle, and it's definitely, there's a lot of continuity issues in this episode too, in regards to the special effects. The special effects are incredible, as well as the art design. But when when Koenig is landing the Eagle back on Alpha, he's in the lab pod Eagle, and then also there's a different points in time that we see. In fact, when Koenig goes down to the planet with Alan and the Eagle is landing, we see other Eagles that are on the Pirian surface. So again, it's a continuity issue, but still, you know what?
Wait,
we think we're past
it. What? Are you kidding me? Are you telling me that when he lands for the first time with Carter,
yes,
briefly
it's a stock special effects shot they use.
Yeah, there's other Eagles.
I love seeing things even 50 years later that I never saw before.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 Eagles in the background I
don't know. It's just things like that. There's a lot of things that don't make sense.
How did they get there?
Yeah.
Charlene, my cassette tape.
Oh, in my attic. I still have some.
I don't have it right in handy in front of me, but I have the Metamorph from when it was originally taped back on broadcast on September 26th of 1976. I have the original broadcast of that, which I'm sure everybody else does too. And that's why, like, when Chris made that comment, we didn't know everybody else that were fans of the show was doing that. And
yeah, I'll tell you what we did know. I tell you what I knew enough of is how series are syndicated, and how they're what they called stripped. And that means Monday through Friday. So Star Trek had 3 seasons and enough episodes to strip. And back then, 3 seasons was the magical number that would get you up to probably the right amount of episodes to do that. So when year 2 was canceled, I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to see this show ever again. Because it won't be syndicated. I mean, like what we used to think of as syndication, like after a show was on network and then it was successful and then it was sold as a package, and you'd see every day, Monday through Friday, Gilligan's Island, I Love Lucy, the whatever. So yeah, I had to quickly scramble and figure out how I was going to tape it. And I listened, in the dark times of the 80s, that's all I had. Was audio cassettes and my imagination.
Same here. In fact, I was taping these episodes like I was just saying, in the 70s. I had them on cassette tape, and then of course when VCRs came out, it was like, whoa, how cool is that? Mm-hmm. Hey, Bill, thanks for joining us tonight. My friend Bill is out there. Welcome, and he's in Harmony, New Jersey. I see Martin Ben is also joining us. He's joining us from New York.
Martin.
Chris Trice is out there. Hey, Chris, he's joining us from the UK. He said, you guys need to bring these podcasts forward. I'm just off to bed. Incidentally, I love the sheer originality, bizarreness of Piri. Nothing seen like it on screen before.
And this is a one-off, Chris, because normally I drop them at midnight, Saturday night. This one being live, though, we had to schedule a little later in the day. So it'll be there for you tomorrow. So
yes, you can hear all of my wonderful comments preserved for posterity.
There we go.
Did we say hi to Martin? Martin's out there.
Did.
Yeah, I did. I said, he's joining us from New York. Welcome again, Martin. Good to see you out there. And I see Michelle is out there. Hey, Michelle. This is Yeah, thanks to everybody that's joining us on Facebook as well as YouTube. We really appreciate that, and we're glad that you are out there. And if you have not done so already, please just say hi in the comments section. And any comments you want to share about The Guardian of Piri, Space 1999, episode number 8 from the first season, shot back in 1974. Please do so.
I think overall the episode, just talking about the design again and the effects work, I mean, it's really remarkable when you look at it. When you take that scene behind us, approaching the rock face there, and you see the little tiny Purian balls on top, right? And you lay that, or you compare that to the special effects set where they would have had the 22-inch and the 44-inch models all in scale with those same Purian balls versus what they did in the live action set, right? All these different departments had to work together and had to be, sending notes back and forth to make sure that everything looked right and was in scale, depending on how they were shooting it or what they were shooting. It's just really remarkable from that standpoint.
No, it really is, Warren. You're absolutely right about that. Yeah, Peter's saying Star Trek: The Side of Paradise, similar story. Yes, and we were just talking about that. Chris was saying that earlier too, Peter. So just to share that. Michelle's saying when she falls down and the robot face was nightmare fuel.
Oh, can we
like
just talk about that for a minute?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's one of those bloopers that nobody thought we were going to be able to rewind it and freeze it so many years later. But when the robot's hands are pulled away, you can see that it's just Catherine Schell doing this, because instead of your pinkies being together, which is what it would be naturally anatomically, it's the thumbs that are together, which is not really possible to do. I guess you could do like this.
And that's one I've never noticed before. See, we're learning so much about this.
And I'll be honest with you, I never noticed that either. My beef with that whole thing was that she puts her hands up even before he shoots, unless she was trying to protect herself. But
I saw that too, and I that's how I attribute it. It's like, oh, he's pulling. Oh no, not. Yeah.
So I kind of let that one go, but yeah, that's there.
Let's talk about, two things. One, sex appeal, and two, the costume. First of all, sex appeal. Any chance? I mean, come on. I saw the original Star Trek, and they had lots of things that were very sexy, as much as they could. And so, even though that our show wasn't quite like that, it was still great when they could offer something somehow. A quick shot of a leg in the solarium, some sportswear on the moon surface, a random, very, what's the word I'm thinking of? Well, a random shot with girls in swimsuits when the moon base is really hot in catacombs of the moon.
What about Alan in pajamas?
Yeah. Any chance to get our main characters in pajamas, to have that kind of softening and sexiness about them. Yep. And I really appreciated all of the half-naked bodies in Piri as a child. And Newsweek wasn't wrong when they said sexy robot rulers of the planet Piri, or Piri. I think there's a famous story about Catherine's costume. Have you heard it, you guys? I mean,
I actually have. Catherine has talked about, I guess, because Keith was the one who designed it, and she was commenting that she really wasn't happy with it. She felt that it was showcasing the features that she didn't want it to showcase, and the features that she did want to be showcased were not. Let me tell you something. And, going back, to those, years, I always thought, wow, Catherine Schell. Yep. I mean, you know what? So
Keith knew better than Catherine. She's like, this is what I don't like. So please hide all of it. He's like, okay, I'm going to showcase all of it instead.
Exactly. Yeah. And I agree. Barbara Bain, she basically beautiful.
I mean, we're talking model. We're talking former fashion model. So any chance for her to be sexy as well. And she didn't really get that much chance in the first season. So I did appreciate them sexing it up a little bit in the second, even though they sometimes went overboard, but that's another story.
Missy's talking about Alan.
Yes, that's all I can say. Carter, shirtless.
Yep.
We got 2 votes for Carter shirtless. Let's see here. Oops, sorry, Roy.
That's
It's
okay. Oh,
Martin.
sorry.
It's funny you mentioned that because I just watched Cloudminders last night. I hadn't seen it in years, but yeah, Droxine's outfit was like spectacular.
You know what's
Yeah,
funny though? I actually thought
taped on.
it's funny. Sherry's out there. She's saying, "Ah, be careful, your wife is listening." Hey, what can I say about Catherine Shell? I mean, my God, you know. But no, in the Cloud Miners, I was not a Droxine fan. I was more a fan of Vanna. I thought Vanna
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
beautiful, and sadly, Sherry just said third vote for Alan shirtless. No, I thought Vanna had my vote for that, but anyway, go ahead. Michelle's saying Catherine was gorgeous and still is. Yeah,
Yes, she is.
is
Lovely
absolutely
lady.
very lovely.
Did you guys? I mean, maybe because I was a little younger. Did you guys realize that Maya in year two was Catherine Shell as in?
Oh yeah.
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 So I didn't pick up on that till years later. I was a little too young to make the connection.
Yeah, they were publicizing that, and you know that
Yeah.
that's going to be coming on and everything, and that was very very big. Yeah, no shower scenes in this episode.
Yeah, it took more than a few octopots on her eyebrows for me to not know that was Catherine Shell.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's interesting too, and I'm going to make this connection, and we'll talk about this when we talk about year two. It's probably one of the episodes that is on. You're talking about like top, middle, and bottom. This is definitely one of my bottom year two episodes. The Tabor, interesting enough, had a robot of Maya that essentially explodes and the face is all, destroyed. And it's kind of interesting because that's Catherine Shell playing, Maya. And then you have the Guardian of Piri. The same thing is happening to the Servant of the Guardian. And I just kind of, it's kind of an indirect connection, but I thought that was interesting that she happened to have that happen twice. But again, I'm not a big fan of the Tabor, so I don't even want to go there. But
hey, I do quote from that one though too, though.
Oh boy,
I will like it, Tabor.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Chris, now we're friends.
Okay.
No, I got it. He's talking about the dinner. He's quoting the dinner.
Oh, okay.
From the Tabor. Missy said that's what.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're just friends.
Nancy.
So, yes, Freaky when he vanished. Absolutely. I want to talk about, what do I want to talk about? Oh, the special edition that you had in the convention.
Oh yes,
from Martin's, and the lost scene and stuff.
Yeah.
I have to say that it is a testament to the love that we have for this show, that we would sit through 52 minutes of a show we have seen and heard thousands of times to see one short little scene of a reaction shot of a nurse. Ooh, did you see that? I've never seen that one before. Oh, God love us. God love us.
Chris, I'm going to take that a step further. The fact that everybody in the audience knew that was a different reaction.
Yes. Yes. Ooh, the crowd kind of murmured as we all went like, yes, that's it. That's the scene. And then some of us were like, that's it? That's it?
Well, I tell you what, after sitting through about 40 Martin Landau tapes and not finding a bloody thing, when I did stumble upon that was like the frickin' holy grail, my friend.
Yes,
I tell you.
I remember when Warren let me know about that and how excited he was. He's like, Roy, I got to show you this. And then I was like, oh my God, look at that. Because it's a different port where, we're talking about, being plugged in, totally different.
I want to talk about that too, but no, it wasn't much, but it was the fact that this whole ordeal, I mean, would have been for naught if it weren't for that scene. Yes, we found the alternate Metamorph cut as well, which was kind of nice. But honestly, those scenes and that reaction shot, my friend Chris, would have been lost for 50 years, and nobody would have seen it ever.
Yeah.
So
if it hadn't been for you, Warren.
I know. It's my claim to fame. But
You're
now
going
about
to
that, about why would they change? And for anybody who hasn't seen it, there's two insert shots while Kano is being plugged into the computer in medical, and the second is a reaction shot in place of a reaction shot from Anton. It's one of the nurses in the unit. But before that, when Helen is plugging him in, it's a different style of connection port into the back of his head. And I just want to ask you guys that. I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, it was fascinating discovering this, because why would they have made that change, right? The episode was locked and it made it over to North America because that's where this tape was struck. And then somebody over in the UK went, well, I think I'm just speculating, but I think they kind of thought that was a little too unnerving, like to see pins
I'll tell
actually
you,
going into the back of somebody's head.
yeah, I have a feeling you're right on the first one. I think the port also was a little unnerving, but you also have to realize that this show is going out to some of the southern states, and they might have thought something about putting, I don't know, there might have been a racial element with it. But I tell you, I know why they took out that reaction shot of that nurse, that extra, because she looked ridiculous.
Well, it really didn't fit. And
Was,
what I want to do, though, is I'm going to share this because folks out there that have not seen this. Now, one thing I want to do is I want to give a plug to Martin Wiley. Thank you. Again, you would think I was a pod if I didn't do that. So again, I'm just clarifying that I am me.
Oh, now we will know whether it's you or a body snatched Roy by your ability to say things. Wait, Roy didn't stumble over that word.
Hey,
him?
Data didn't say consonants or
contractions
rather, right? So
right.
You know, can't. So hey,
well, neither did Sandra. Come on.
Right. So with that said, I am going to put this up, and that way folks can see this. I'm hoping this works. So I'm going to share this on the screen. And here is the port that we're referring to right here.
Good job. Yeah.
And that way, that was the original. That was as we saw it on the show. But here is the port as it was. I'm trying to see if I can make it bigger. And this is how it would have been with the original. This is what Warren discovered.
I don't see much of a difference.
There is.
It's huge. It's like a DIN connector. So it's like a mag connector is what they changed it to.
Yeah.
Like your iPhone connector versus something with a series of pins, 7 pins. It's exactly like what they called a DIN connector back in the 70s.
When I say I don't see much difference, I mean the two shots are lit the same. It's the same sequence. I'm not sure,
but it's a different.
Why they decided to go with one or the other.
Well, I think with the one that she's putting in
on the left, this one.
Yeah, that's what was in the episode. You don't see anything being literally plugged in. It's almost like being attached.
Like a magnet.
A magnet, exactly.
You know, the other thing I can't unsee ever since I found this is that shot right there that's pulled up, Roy, those aren't Barbara Bain's hands, and that's not real hair. That's not the back of Clifton Jones' head. Whereas the other shot, that's probably Barbara's
nails.
Those are definitely Barbara's nails, right? But the other one was a hand model, essentially.
Yeah, and that's essentially what they use too. I mean, Sherry and I will joke about it. We're watching, different shows or movies, and we'll say, "Oh, that's not him, that's not her," because what happens is, time is money. And instead of having a big star, doing a photograph of the hands and stuff.
Yeah.
You'll see this, a lot of times in Space 1999. You'll see a lot of this in classic Star Trek when this is occurring, and it always cracks me up. Now, this is the scene with Bob Mathias. This is the reaction shot that we have on the show. But now this is the shot of the nurse. Now look at that grin that she's like. It seems off.
And it's actually even more off when you see it in person, because this is a still shot.
Right.
But when I saw this live in London, I snickered. And I was like, oh, now I know why they took it out, because it was weird.
That has been showcased as a background performer in the episodes. And it's a nice moment that could have been captured. But it was just
not appropriately. The smiling was not appropriate.
It wasn't. It was just,
I disagree wholeheartedly with both of you. I prefer the nurse and her reaction I mean, she's reacting to David Cano regaining consciousness. You know, it was his success, and the fact that the insert shot of Anton was a stock shot used from a few minutes ago in the same scene.
I agree. I agree about the stock shot of Anton not being right, but I think that the shot of her is a little too much. I know what they were going for with her smiling, but I think just as it's a stock shot of him looking so too serious, it's kind of I always like to say it's about the balance. I think you're going one way in one direction with one thing, and then you're going the other way with another, where it's too much.
You know,
and it's nice that we got to experience it because, hey, this was cut. This is what it was supposed to be. So for that purpose, I love it. As far as is either one of them the right shot? No, I think that they needed something in the middle. So that's just my 2 cents for that.
Catherine has talked about how she didn't like to see herself in the daily rushes, but Martin and Barbara did. They always went there to check lighting because they had lighting contract requirements. They went there to see how they looked, and how the episode was doing. I almost would guarantee you that Barbara saw that shot of somebody else's hands and said, "Those don't look anything like mine," or there's no fingernails or something. And they said, "Okay, we got to do an insert shot." So I don't know. Because the two of them, yes, exactly. She's smiling. Anyway.
That's what
yes.
Well, there you go.
Well, this has been fun.
Thanks, Sherry. I needed that.
But no, I mean, and talking about another bloop. I don't want to say it's a blooper because you know what? It's not really a blooper, but it's a moment that occurs. When Alan is waking up after being stunned on the planet, did you guys notice that his commlock drops off as he's getting up off the ground and he's starting to run for the eagle?
No.
And then he gets it. I'm assuming he magically gets it.
Yeah, somebody probably picks it up along the way. I'm sure.
Yeah.
So that's something that just another reference point.
What is the next episode after this one?
Well, the next episode after this is going to be Force of Life. And one thing I wanted to comment about, Chris, you were talking earlier about Space 1999 and endings and how it's very Twilight Zone-ish.
Yeah.
I do agree with what you're saying about this episode as far as that, but I would say, and we'll talk more about it next week when we discuss Force of Life, but I think, and full disclaimer, it's 50 years old, so I don't think we're giving any spoilers away here to folks. But in regards to the ending of that episode, and we'll talk more about it this next week, I think that what is an amazing type of point, adding to the point that you made, is that there is no explanation of why what happens in that episode happens as they're trying to figure out everything and trying to rationalize why did it occur. And it's just left open. And you know what? That in itself is brilliant because it's like a lot of shows of that time period always felt in the writing that, something happens and we have to go work through the story. And then we're going to have a conclusion at the end where all the loose ends get tied up. It was very daring for Space 1999 with the writers to not only do that once, twice, but on several occasions where it's what happens and we don't know why it happened. And it's one of the strengths of the series, I feel.
Yeah. When they were firing on all thrusters and they had found their way, which they were doing, as Martin has famously said, they were finding their way. Yep. Then the show really works.
Yeah.
And what else? Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Force of Life. That is one of those episodes that is a fan favorite. Yeah. I didn't think so much of it when I was a kid because when you listen to the episode, it's very jarring. There's lots of synthesizer effects and things. But it is such a well-regarded visual show, and it's such a good horror entry that we even had, for Breakaway, the convention in Los Angeles in '99, we had a noted author come and discuss just that episode and broke it down. And that was John Kenneth Muir. And I sat in on his presentation at that point and was just blown away. And to this day, I can't think of a a 180 camera turn without thinking of space and what that means metaphorically, that the world is upside down, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm looking forward to that episode as well.
No, thank you. And it's very well said in regards to that. And John Kenneth Muir is an incredible writer. And it was such a pleasure to meet him in 1999 at that convention 25 years ago. He was also at the convention in 2002, in New York City as well. And I don't have his copy of his book in front of me, but it was such a pleasure to sit in on his discussions, and he's a wealth of knowledge and information. And I also have to say, kudos, and sadly he has since passed. David Tomlin was an amazing director, and he went on to do a lot of different types of different movies as well. And Exploring Space 1999. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I've got my copy on the bookshelf. If you don't have a copy of it, get it.
By everybody.
Yep.
Nice.
It's an amazing book. And that was, I believe that was one of John's first, if not the first.
Didn't David Tomlin direct a couple episodes of The Prisoner?
I think he did. Yeah.
I think he came earlier from that ITC production. Listen, guys, a couple more things about Piri. We got off topic on Force of Life, but listen, just to sort of piggyback off of what Roy and Chris were saying, I think this episode, and if I've been a little hard on it, I do apologize, but I think this episode fits nicely into the mold of year one, right? Where, like you guys said, it's not giving you all the answers. It's not everything wrapped up in a bow, right? And it makes you wonder. And that ending, like you said, Chris, sort of that missed opportunity. Well, you know what? I think it's very. I think it resonated with a lot of people. So I do have to give it praise there. The other thing I'd like to talk about really quickly is that comparatively to 525 lines of resolution versus 4K or HD today, was that clearly that the mannequin when she falls down the steps, the Guardian, was that as noticeable in 1975 as it is today?
Kind of. I mean, if you look closely, you could see that it was kind of stiff.
Yeah. It was very stiff.
Yeah.
She froze when she died.
I guess she was frozen in time, right?
Yeah. All right.
Well, it's pleasure. Rigor mortis set in.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, no, well, listen, this has been great, guys. Thank you for everybody out there tuning in tonight for our special live broadcast as well. Keep watching for some information on the Los Angeles convention. Chris is actually a big part of helping with that organization next year. So thank you very much for everything.
Dragged into participating. You see what happens when you're not there to say no?
Yeah, I found that out too, Chris.
Fine.
And along with Catherine and Bob. And
I have my ticket already.
Yes, and I was just going to mention to everybody out there that we do have that early bird special still on and in place till the end of the year for $199 for a 3-day weekend pass. It'll save you about $50, and you can also lock it in with the purchase of a supporting membership for only $85.
Yeah. Are you tired of paying high prices? Would you like a little high quality convention time? Buy now, act now. You'll save more in the end. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Crazy Eddie's prices can't be because he's insane.
Crazy Table Wars. Prices can't be beat. See my Emporium. It's got all you need.
Oh, wait a minute, real quick. We are going to be announcing that shortly, Charlene. So stay tuned. So we this episode, next episode, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
We kind of knew that Chris Paulsen was going to come on to discuss Piri a few weeks in advance because he's the perfect choice, obviously.
It's my jam. It's my episode.
But a certain episode.
Stay there. I want to live there. I want to be on Piri.
Hey, easy, Commander.
Easy.
Look into the light.
Awesome. Okay, well, listen, what are we going to do for a greeting? Or I'm sorry, a departure tonight, guys?
What are we going to do for a departure?
Planet Piri now has life, water, everything.
We brought a dead planet back to life. Maybe we should have stayed.
Let's go live there.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right.
Take care, everyone. As I
Have a
always
good
like to say
evening.
to.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.